I love board games. From basic ones to more elaborate ones, I'm a big fan of a good game night. But we're in the future. We have technology. Some of the best board games have evolved into games that you can play with your friends online. But no other game series captures the essence of a good board game night like the Jackbox Party Pack series. And with the 10th one coming soon, I thought it would be a ton of fun to rank every single Jackbox game in existence. Yes, all 45 of them. However, so I don't have to repeat myself 6 or 7 times, I'll be grouping all of the games with sequels into one slot and telling you what the best version of that game is once we get to that game series. So when you account for that, it's actually 37 total unique games, which is still a lot. So without further ado, let's rank all the Jackbox Party Pack games, starting with... Earwax is one of the earliest Jackbox games, and on paper, it had the potential to be a ton of fun, but its execution is terrible. It's basically Cards Against Humanity, but with random noises. So since the sounds that you can choose from are randomly given to you, there isn't any room for player expression or creativity, and it just feels like you got lucky with good sounds. Also, the game just kinda drags, which is weird considering how simple it is. There's just way better games that will fulfill that itch of being goofy, but this one is not it. Easily the least enjoyable experience of all the packs. What the hell? Wartsbud is one of the few games here that feels kind of pointless. You write a word, then people use your word to make other words, and we vote to see if we like it. Then we just repeat the process. It's a little confusing as to what you're trying to do or how to win, and for a word game, it doesn't really seem to care about the word aspect. You can literally just write anything you want. Sure, it does have the potential to lead to funny scenarios, which is why it's not the worst, but this game isn't funny enough to be a crowd pleaser, and it's barely even a game. Jackbox knows how to make a trivia game super creative and fun. Trust me, we will talk about the good ones, but their flagship game, You Don't Know Jack, is easily the worst trivia game series in the packs. I would even argue that the newer one, yes, for some reason this got a sequel, the newer one looks and feels worse than the first. Because at least the first one had super goofy transitions that reminded me of bowling alley animations. The questions might think that they're being clever, but they're really more frustrating and weirdly worded. I understand if some of you have nostalgia for this game, or you're really into pop culture, but trust me when I say Jackbox can and has done better trivia than this. Licewater is one of the only games that allows for over 100 players to play. But good luck getting 100 people to play this boring game. It's a simple idea, true or false. See who can answer the fastest. But 90% of the time, you can just win by spamming true or false. I know I sound like I just hate trivia, but trust me, this game is just dull, and the trivia gets better, I promise. This is if Whiplash was longer, more repetitive, and less funny. In Bracketeering, your responses go head to head until only one is a winner in a big bracket. I will admit that seeing some of the funnier responses make it through a bracket can get a few laughs, but since you're gonna see the same responses duke it out over and over again, it just feels like a slog. And then if there's a tie, you have to spam tap your phone to help your choice win. You don't play Jackbox to spam with your finger. That's what Mario Party is for, duh. They do try to spice it up with the prompts changing, but I don't feel like this really sways anybody differently. Look, I'm glad there's a game that can host a ton of players, but I think I'd rather be in the audience of a better game. As Jackbox's first and kind of their last attempt at a true video game, it's very clear to see why it just didn't work or have the mass appeal that they expected. Zeeple Dome has to be played in person, or the input lag online would be so bad that it just functionally doesn't work. Then what you're left with is a pretty bad Angry Birds knockoff that might have just been better off as a separate mobile game, because the controls are also really clunky. I appreciate the attempt, Jackbox, but just stick with what you're good at. Games where I can roast my friends and family. Jokeboat is a Mad Libs comedy type game where you create punchlines for weird setups made by your other players. However, Jackbox had a Mad Libs type game that did it better, and this came out after that. The one saving grace about this game is when you try to beat a player with their own joke setup and it works, but otherwise it's just not really as funny as you'd expect a Jokeboat game to be. Although I do love the rubber ducky that shipwrecks the entire thing. Faking It is a social deduction game that, with the right group, can be a blast, but it can also be super easy to catch the fake person. It's not really a bad game by any means, but I think the execution could have been a lot better. And the fact that you have to be in person and also have enough room to play it holds it back a lot. And I think Jackbox knows this and has since strayed from games that require you to be in person. Faking It just wasn't making it. The Devil's in the Details is one of the few games where you're kind of all on the same side, but also not really at all. You're a family who need to do chores to get through the week successfully, but you get rewarded for doing selfish things, so it ends up just being really chaotic. It's more of an excuse to play a bunch of mini games on your phone, but it's more stressful than it is fun. And with it requiring a ton of inputs on the phone, it's really not an ideal situation gameplay-wise. Quicksort splits your group into two teams, and you have to order different things as correctly as possible to win. This game has its moments, but with very limited and oddly specific categories and semi-clunky controls on the phone, it can be a bit frustrating at times. With the right team and group of people though, successful attempts to correctly order things can feel so great. But this game can take a long time since you have to sit through two teams ordering their choices. However, this game honestly has the most potential to grow on me. Bomb Corp is all about defusing bombs. It's really a big puzzle game that gets harder and harder as you progress. This might be your thing, but I got bored of it pretty fast. There's only so many combinations of things to trick you with, you know? I guess you could say that it really didn't blow me away. Split the Room is like the opposite of most games in the party packs. You respond to prompts with answers that will split your group into picking either choice. It's actually a very cool and unique premise for a Jackbox game, but sometimes you're given prompts that make it so hard to get a room split. And also because this is the goal of the game, it's just not as fun or as goofy as you'd want a Jackbox party pack game to be. However, the aesthetic and the host are amazing, but they're not enough to save this game that had so much potential. In Dictionarium, you make up words, then you make up definitions for those words, and then you use them in sentences. It's super fast and super simple. I don't see this being anyone's absolute favorite, but for how short some of the games can be, it has the potential to get a giggle or two out of you without wasting a ton of time. And sometimes you just invent a word that totally should exist. Civic Doodle has you and your opponents draw over the same random shapes to see who comes up with the best drawings. And while I do love drawing games, even though I'm not really an artist, this has to be the weakest one in all of Jackbox. I do like how you keep adding to each other's art pieces, but it's also what holds the game back, as sometimes it just feels like you can't really add anything more, so you're just kind of stuck there doing nothing. Also, I hate the mayor's voice. It's one of the worst host voices ever.
Your art has moved me to commission you to do a portrait, one that'll hang in the town hall.
The Wheel of Enormous Proportions is a trivia game that has a great idea, but ends up mostly being up to chance in the end. However, what I do like is that most of the questions have you pick from a large selection of possible answers, with multiple answers being correct, which means that people are less likely to cheat, because I feel like in trivia games, some people, especially online, they're gonna be looking stuff up, and it's impossible to know. So because the questions are formatted differently like this, and you have such a short window to answer it, it actually does minimize cheating, which is a huge plus. But the irony is that the wheel aspect of this game ruins the fun. You can straight up just win if the wheel randomly lands on you enough, even if you didn't answer any questions right. I think the game was so close to being one of the best trivia games, but it fumbled it with the randomness being way more important than the actual trivia. Oh my god. Have you ever played Wavelengths? Nonsensory is just that, but slightly worse and also better? So you're trying to get people to guess things on a scale of 1 to 10. And initially you start with word prompts, which can get goofy, but most of the times it's just okay. But by the second round, you have to start drawing things to get people to understand what you mean. That's where the game really picks up steam. Then it's just a hot mess when it makes you choose between two completely different things. Overall, Nonsensory is not a terrible addition to the Jackbox party packs, but there are better drawing games and better non-drawing games. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's kind of mid. Pole Mine is another game that has you split into teams, and then everybody ranks things, and it's up to your team to guess correctly the order of said things after all the data has been collected from the players. So while this is a very subjective game, some questions can have more obvious answers, and the better you know your group, the higher likelihood that you'll get the order correctly. What I love most about this game is its execution and its aesthetic. It's definitely trying to be like a D&D adventure, and it works for me. There's not really a game on Jackbox like it, so I do think this game is a bit underrated. But when the prompts are way too subjective, it can feel like you're just shooting in the dark, which is not really that fun. But it's a welcome addition with a unique concept that only gets better with better friends. In Monster Seeking Monster, you're all secretly monsters trying to date each other and get the most love to win. It's a mixture of social deduction, strategy, and sliding into DMs. It's a fantastic premise held back by the different monsters' unfair abilities. For example, the mummy has an objectively worse version of the vampire's abilities. The vampire's abilities are identical to the mummy's but just with no downside. And these unique abilities wouldn't be an issue if the game didn't randomly assign the monsters to us. So you're kind of stuck with what you got. And the moment that you're outed, you're pretty much screwed the rest of the game. Unless you're a vampire, because there's no downside. This is a game that could easily be top tier if it had a sequel that updated and balanced the core game mechanics. Weapons Drawn combines murder mystery with bad art, the best combination. You draw the murder weapons, and these weapons can give away who each killer is, because there will always be a hidden letter in it that is in your name. Solving the cases is just as fun as creating goofy murder weapons. Also, naming your accomplice creates some of the best moments. Joe Biden.
Joe
Biden.
Bingo Bongo the thirst second.
Joe Biden
the second. What holds this game back is the fact that if people are really bad at drawing, you lose a lot of the charm and skill that goes into creating a murder weapon, especially if they're not even reading the prompt. Also, it's a rather long game, clocking in at easily 30 plus minutes per session. But if you have the time and you got the crew that wants to do this game is a treat. Boomerang is Jackbox meets Big Brother, and it works? Each player goes in with a specific trait, and the game really asks you to just like own that trait, you know? It's peak when the players play up to their specific roles. The least popular players get voted off the show, but end up coming back with slightly different names and a different trait, so it's really just a LARPing popularity contest. So it's not that deep, and it may not be for everybody, but if you and your friends just like making each other laugh, this game will do it. Although this one is also very long, but I do think it's worth the time investment, especially with really close friends. Also, I love that when you're eliminated, you can live type what you want to say before you go, which can lead to some pretty fun moments. Role Models is another more subjective based game that has you categorize the other players based solely on vibe checks and soul reads. It's honestly a wholesome time, but unfortunately, it's only 6 players, which is rather limiting. And if you don't really know the other players that well, it just kind of falls apart sometimes. But like most games in the party packs, with the right group of people, any of these games could be good. But this game in particular really needs you guys to be like really tight. Bidiots has you create art based on a prompt and also has you bid on other art that you think might be worth something according to some of the hints that you've received. This game is the perfect mixture of stupid drawings and, honestly, some strategy. You want to buy the correct things, but you also don't want to overpay either. The bidding war part is surprisingly pretty fun. I do wish this game got updates to include colors and more players, but it's a decent time and can be pretty funny, especially when predatory loans comes up. I know some people might find them annoying, but I chuckle every time.
Predatory loans!
Junktopia has you buying useless crap and convincing other players that it's worth their money. I'm a big fan of games where you present stuff and try to win over people, but I understand that if you're a little bit shy, you may not like these type of games. These TED Talk like games. However, if you're down for it, it really allows for more creativity without relying on your ability to draw like other games we'll talk about later. However, since you have very little control over what items you work with, it does make the game feel a tad bit unfair. Let's be honest, some objects are just funny by default, and some not so much. But I can't complain. It's a simple premise and a solid execution.
Follow his adventures around the ocean. Bazinga.
In Espionage, you guess the percentage that people do things, and then the other players vote if they think that the correct answer is higher or lower. That's it. I'm a little biased here because I've played this so much with my family. I just like the game's simplicity. It's fast-paced, extremely easy to understand, and its delivery is all secret agent spy vibes. The only thing that I dislike is that it feels like the polling data is a bit outdated. Besides that, I guess it's pretty good. This game is easily the most underrated Jackbox game. In Blather Round, you're trying to get the other players to guess your word with very weird hints made up of other players' responses. It's like if the hot and cold game was a strange word game. I found this game's idea to be so engaging, and I enjoyed the challenge of just trying to get people to get the word. It was more fun to do harder words, honestly. Seriously, if you overlooked this game before, give it another shot. Survive the Internet is like a reverse Whiplash, where you make a response to an unknown topic, and the players make your response sound insane or stupid out of context. And this creates easily some of the funniest scenarios in all of Jackbox. Some rounds are better executed than others, but this game is Jackbox wacky wild side firing on all cylinders. Plus, the look is so unique and very fitting, and the background is full of Easter eggs, which can keep you engaged while you're just waiting for other people to finish. Okay. Talking Points is like Junktopia. You present to your friends a mini TED Talk, except you have no idea what the PowerPoint slides will look like, and you hope it makes any sense and convinces them to vote your way. I love that another player chooses the weird images that you have to roll with, and it makes for an insanely fun improv game. The worst part about it is the points don't really matter until the end, where you get these trophies from each player. So it can feel like all of your hard work was for nothing, but usually if you're memorable, you'll still win, and it's not that bad. It's easily the second best of the TED Talk-like games. And we'll talk about the #1 presentation game because we are now at our top 10. These are the best of the best games in all of Jackbox. Easily the games that make Jackbox so iconic in the first place. Push the Button was Among Us before Among Us. This game puts you and your friends on a ship, except some of you are aliens. So the way to figure out if people are aliens or not is to use different examinations and tests. Humans will get the correct prompts and the aliens won't. In theory, this would be the best game ever. I'm a big fan of deception games, and this feels like Among Us but with more things to do besides doing random tasks. However, the thing that holds it back are two big issues. For the humans to win, they need to get all aliens out at the same time. And the aliens have a ton of hacks that let them either change their prompts to the correct one or ruin the prompt for a human to make them seem sus. I feel like the game would work even better if you could eject people one at a time, kind of like Among Us, and not be this one and done, all or nothing type game. So if any game needs and deserves a sequel, it would have to be this one because they could update it to make it a perfect game. It's so close. Jokeboat wishes it could be this game. In Madverse City, you're huge robots destroying the city and destroying the beat. You make diss tracks against your opponents based off random mad-libbed intros that lead to some of the greatest moments.
Gonna go home crying, you little baby.
That's what's up right there.
I ran over a family of 4 with a shopping cart.
Maybe! I love the aesthetic. I love the music. I love this game so much. The only thing that I wish is that there was a final round where you can go back and forth rapid fire like 8 Mile style, but otherwise, this game is dope as hell. The Drawful series is the original drawing game, and it's still amazing. You draw something based on a weird prompt. Then your opponents create different titles describing the piece that you made, and you get points for everyone who guesses the correct title, and your opponents get points if they fool people with theirs. What I love about this game is that it really doesn't matter if you're not the best artist. It's almost better if the drawings aren't incredible. It creates more ambiguity and strange responses that surprisingly fool people. I would say that I prefer the sequel to the original because it just elevates the concept with an additional slide that animates your art. It does make the game last a bit longer, but Drawful animated is just better Drawful. So yeah, Drawful is drawsome. Job is a word game where you fill out a few prompts and then all the words you used will randomly be dispersed amongst the other players, and then they have to use those words to come up with the best response. It's like Whiplash, but you're limited with your words, so the responses will be a lot more ridiculous. I am a huge fan of these type of games, and I think of all the word games, this one takes the cake by a mile, since it really tests your skills to be funny with a pile of words that you didn't choose. It's also consistently fun throughout the game because you see the words that you wrote being used in completely unexpected ways. I guess you could say that Job does a good job. The Fibage series is a staple of Jackbox, with 4 different versions. You're given a weird fill-in-the-blank where you have to come up with the best lies to fool people, and also find the truth. These truths are usually a bit unorthodox, which is why the game works, since you and your friends can throw almost anything at the wall, and it might fool somebody. Fibage is fast, it's simple, it has a competitive side to it, and it can be really funny. Fooling people has been and always will be a treat. But I do think that if I had to choose between the 4 Fibages, Fibage 3 would probably be the best, because it's where they introduced enough about you, which allows for you to make the Fibage about you and your friends, which, yeah, duh, of course that would be fun. Although Fibage 2 has my heart, and I like the defibrillator. Trivia Murder Party is the best trivia game. You answer trivia, and if you get it wrong, you play mini games to try and survive. After there's only one survivor left, there's one last mad dash out with rapid fire trivia. And even if you're dead, you can still win. The game is creepy, but charming. The host is a serial killer, but he's a goofy goober.
Only one of you will survive, but the memories we create will live on forever.
The minigames are all super unique. It's just the best way to play trivia. And it's even better in the sequel, especially with the finale requiring you to get all 3 answers correct to escape. So, if you're going to do trivia, do it to the death. The Whiplash series is all about being the funniest guy with the best responses and also knowing how to read a room. So many Jackbox games are just trying to do what Whiplash did, and a lot of the times, Whiplash just does it better. You win if you can get the most votes on your responses. And getting a Whiplash, oh my god, mwah, so satisfying. It's a classic Jackbox game for a reason. And so many of these other Jackbox games are just trying to be like Whiplash. Everybody is trying to be funny, which means that you're pretty much guaranteed to laugh. Unless your friends aren't funny, which, damn, that kind of sucks, bro. I do think Whiplash 2 is the best one, as the last slash changes every time, but number 3 is not bad at all with the triple lash. Patently Stupid is the best TED Talk-like game, because you also make art. Yes, I clearly love art games. It's my list, okay? I like art. In this game, you pitch an invention that solves a very specific problem, and then you see if the other players want to fund it. I have so many fond memories with this game, and I love every aspect about this game. The inventions are wacky, and the final round where we're all solving the same problem always leads to different solutions. But there's 2 games that are just somehow more fun. So, our runner-up is... TKO has you and your friends designing shirts with wacky titles and even wackier drawings submitted by each other. This creates combinations you would never expect, and some shirts that you might totally want to buy, because you can. But don't buy a Jackbox shirt, come on, the quality is not there. If you want a quality shirt that just says random things on it, just buy my merch. Links in the description down below. The shirts go head to head until one shirt is crowned the victor. The amount of creativity that you'll see in this game is mind-blowing, regardless of art skill level. Seriously, sometimes the worst piece of art, when combined with the right words, is a banger shirt. And while it is one of the longer games, it kind of flies by because you'll be too busy having a ton of fun. But now, our number 1 game in all of Jackbox is... Champed Up is my favorite Jackbox game. It's perfect. Everyone draws a champion for a given topic, and then you'll see someone else's champion, not knowing what they're the champion of, and you'll make a competitor. Then they'll compete until one is a winner. This game will have the funniest you'll ever see. And then on top of that, your old drawings can and will come back to tag team. Who doesn't love callbacks? Everything about this game just works. And every time I play this game, no matter who I play with, it's always a fantastic time.
The champion of awe-inspiring majesty.
It's Joe!
He's back! It's Jover.
So that is my list. However, you can't just buy individual games in these party packs. You gotta get the whole pack. So let's figure out which party pack will get you the best combinations of games and maximum satisfaction. The worst pack is the first pack. Everything has a sequel at this point, and the ones that don't have a sequel, there's a reason for that. Then it's Party Pack 9, then Party Pack 4, followed by Party Pack 5, Party Pack 2, Party Pack 6, Party Pack 8, and our second best one is Party Pack 7, and the best one, easily best bang for your buck, has to be the Jackbox Party Pack 3. You get the best trivia game, Whiplash, TKO, and Espionage, with the only weak link being faking it. Okay, now I'm finally done. If you got this far, thank you. You should join my Discord. I played all 9 of these packs for the last 2 weeks with my Discord mods because my community is awesome. So, do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Also, let me know in the comments down below what your least favorite and favorite Jackbox games are, and what your favorite party pack is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.